The morning sun rose over New Seoul like any other day. Children played in the streets while their parents prepared for work. The smell of breakfast cooking filled the air in the small human colony on Kepler 442b. Nobody knew this would be the last peaceful morning they would ever see. Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won stood on the observation deck of the colony command center, drinking his coffee and watching the daily routine below. He had been stationed here for 2 years as a military advisor. The Green Beret had trained the local militia and helped them prepare defenses, though he never expected to use them. The colony was far from Earth, too far for quick help if trouble came. But the location seemed safe. The alien species they knew about were either friendly or simply ignored humans. At least that was what everyone believed. Kim Tae-won's radio crackled to life. "Sergeant Kim, this is Captain Park Ji-ho. We have unknown contacts on the outer sensor grid. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." Kim Tae-won set down his coffee and grabbed his rifle. "How many ships, Captain?" "At least 50, maybe more. They are not responding to our communications." Kim Tae-won ran to the command center where Captain Park Ji-ho was studying the screens. Park was the colony's militia captain, a former South Korean army officer who had come to New Seoul to start a new life. Now his military training would be tested again. "Show me what we have," Kim Tae-won said. The display showed red dots surrounding their world. The ships were large and moved in perfect formation. Their design was unlike anything in the human databases. "Have you contacted Earth Command?" Kim Tae-won asked. "I tried. Something is jamming our long-range communications. We are on our own." Colony Administrator Lee So-young rushed into the command center. She was a smart woman who had kept New Seoul running smoothly for 5 years. But now fear showed in her eyes. "What is happening? People are starting to panic in the streets." "Unknown alien fleet has arrived," Kim Tae-won said calmly. "We need to start evacuation procedures immediately. Get everyone to the emergency shelters." Before Lee So-young could respond, the first explosions rocked the colony. The aliens had begun their attack without warning or demands. Through the windows they could see strange ships descending from the sky, firing energy weapons at buildings and defensive positions. "So much for diplomacy," Park Ji-ho muttered, checking his weapon. Kim Tae-won activated the colony's defense systems. Automated turrets rose from hidden positions and began firing at the attacking ships. The human weapons scored several hits, but the alien shields absorbed most of the damage. "Captain Park, get your militia to defensive positions Alpha through Delta. I will coordinate from here and then join you." "What about the civilians?" "Lee So-young will handle the evacuation. We buy them as much time as possible." The alien ships landed in the colony's main square. Tall insect-like creatures emerged, carrying advanced energy weapons. They moved with cold efficiency, destroying everything in their path. These were the Velthak, though the humans did not know their name yet. Kim Tae-won studied the enemy through his scope. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms and chitinous armor that seemed to be part of their bodies. Their weapons fired blue energy bolts that could punch through concrete walls. The militia fought bravely, but they were farmers and miners with basic military training. The aliens had superior numbers, better weapons, and seemed to feel no fear. Within an hour, half of the human defensive positions had fallen. "Sergeant Kim, we cannot hold much longer," Park Ji-ho reported over the radio. "They are pushing us back on all fronts." "Keep fighting, Captain. The evacuation is almost complete." Kim Tae-won moved through the colony streets using his advanced training to strike at the aliens where they least expected it. He set up ambushes, planted explosives, and picked off their officers with precise shots. But for every alien he killed, 10 more seemed to take their place. Lee So-young's voice came through his earpiece. "Tae-won, the last transport is ready to leave. We have loaded all the civilians we could find. Good, get them out of here. Head for the asteroid belt and hide until help comes. What about you and the militia? We will hold them as long as possible. Someone needs to make sure you escape safely." Kim Tae-won knew they could not win this fight. The aliens were too many and too strong. But every minute they fought gave the civilians a better chance to escape. He made his way to the colony's main power plant. If he could not save New Seoul, at least he could deny it to the enemy. The plant powered the entire colony and several important research facilities. The aliens would want it intact. Park Ji-ho found him there, setting explosive charges on the main reactor. "Sergeant, my men are falling back to the last defensive line. We have maybe 20 fighters left." "Then it is time to go, Captain. Get your men to the emergency shuttles. That is an order. I am not leaving you behind. Someone has to make sure this place is properly destroyed, and someone has to cover your escape. Park Ji-ho wanted to argue, but he knew Kim Tae-won was right. The sergeant was the better soldier and had the best chance of completing the mission. It has been an honor serving with you, Sergeant. Likewise, Captain. Now go, take care of So-young and her daughter. Park Ji-ho saluted and ran toward the shuttle landing pad. Kim Tae-won continued setting charges throughout the facility. He had enough explosives to make sure the power plant would be useless to the aliens. The sound of enemy footsteps echoed through the corridors. They had found him. Kim Tae-won took position behind a control panel and waited. His rifle had 3 magazines left. He would make them count. The first aliens appeared at the entrance. Kim Tae-won's shots dropped 2 of them instantly. The others took cover and returned fire. Blue energy bolts filled the air, melting metal and setting equipment on fire. More aliens poured into the room. Kim Tae-won kept fighting, moving from cover to cover, but he was outnumbered 50-1. An energy bolt grazed his shoulder, spinning him around. Another hit his leg, dropping him to one knee. Still, he fought on. His training and determination kept him going even as more wounds accumulated, but eventually his ammunition ran out. The aliens surrounded him, their weapons pointed at his head. The largest alien, apparently their commander, approached. It spoke in broken human language. You fight well for a primitive creature, but now you are our prisoner. You will tell us about your homeworld's defenses. Kim Tae-won spat blood and smiled grimly. Go to hell. The alien commander struck him with a chitinous fist, knocking him unconscious. As darkness took him, Kim Tae-won's last thought was of the detonator in his pocket. The charges were set. When the aliens tried to use the power plant, they would get a very unpleasant surprise, but they would not kill him yet. They wanted information first. That would prove to be the biggest mistake in Velthak history. The Velthak Imperial flagship hung in space like a dark monument to alien power. Commander Kelthon stood on the bridge, watching the blue marble that humans called Earth growing larger on the main screen. Soon this primitive world would bow before the might of the Velthak Empire. In the ship's detention center, Kim Tae-won hung from metal restraints that cut into his wrists. 3 days had passed since his capture. The aliens had tried many methods to make him talk, but the Green Beret had revealed nothing except his name, rank, and service number. Kelthon entered the cell, his forearms clicking together in what humans would recognize as impatience. The alien commander was tall even by Velthak standards, with deep scars across his chitinous face that spoke of many battles. Human soldier, your silence gains you nothing. We already know the location of your homeworld. Tell us about your defenses and we will make your death quick. Kim Tae-won raised his head slowly. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, but his voice remained steady. Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won, United States Army Special Forces. Service number 123-456789. The alien struck him across the face with a chitinous claw. Your stubbornness is admirable but pointless. Perhaps you will speak when you see what we do to your species. Kelthon activated a communication device. Prepare the human for broadcast execution. Send the signal to all their worlds. Let them see what happens to those who resist the Velthak Empire. On Earth, Admiral Choi Sang-min sat in his office at Pacific Fleet Command when the emergency alert came through. The 62-year-old officer had served in 3 wars and thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Director Yoon Da-hee of Human Intelligence burst into his office without knocking. Her usually calm face showed pure terror. Admiral, you need to see this immediately. The aliens are broadcasting on all frequencies. The wall screen activated, showing the bridge of an alien warship. In the center stood a creature that looked like a nightmare made real. Forearms, insect-like features, and cold black eyes that held no trace of mercy. People of Earth, the alien spoke in perfect English, clearly using translation technology. I am Commander Kelthon of the Velthak Empire. Your species has trespassed in our territory and killed our warriors. Now you will learn the price of resistance. The camera shifted to show Kim Tae-won suspended between 2 metal posts. His uniform was torn and bloody, but he held his head high. Even through the screen, his defiance was clear. Admiral Choi felt his blood turn to ice. He recognized the uniform, the bearing, the unbroken spirit of a Special Forces soldier. This was one of their own. State your name for your people, human, Kelthon commanded. Kim Tae-won looked directly into the camera. His voice carried across space to reach every human world, every ship, every settlement. Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won, United States Army Special Forces. Green Beret. To my family, I love you. To my country and my species, remember that we do not kneel to anyone. Kelthon laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Brave words from a dead creature. Let this be a lesson to all humans. Submit to the Velthak Empire or share this one's fate. The execution was swift but broadcast in full. Across human space, billions watched in horror as one of their protectors died with honor intact. The alien commander expected fear and surrender. Instead, something else began to stir in the human heart. In fleet command centers, officers sat in stunned silence. On colony worlds, families gathered around screens, their children asking why the bad aliens had hurt the soldier. In military academies, cadets wept openly while their instructors planned revenge. Admiral Choi's hand shook as he reached for his secure communication device. Around him, the command staff waited in absolute silence. The old warrior's voice was deadly calm when he finally spoke. Get me the president. Get me the UN Security Council. Get me the Colonial Defense Minister. And get me Dr. Han Jae-sung. Director Yoon Da-hee wiped tears from her eyes. Admiral, what are you thinking? I am thinking that these aliens just made the worst mistake in galactic history. They think they understand humans. They think we are weak because we prefer peace. They are about to learn otherwise. The secure channels crackled to life as Earth's leadership connected from around the world. President Miller's face appeared on screen, his jaw set in grim determination. Defense Minister Chen looked ready for war. Colonial Administrator Singh had fire in her eyes. But it was the face of Dr. Han Jae-sung that made everyone lean forward. The elderly scientist looked like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. His life's work had been dedicated to peace through strength. Now that strength would be tested. Dr. Han, Admiral Choi said quietly, "Is Prometheus ready?" The scientist nodded slowly. "It has been ready for 20 years, Admiral. I had hoped we would never need to use it." "What is Prometheus?" President Miller asked. Dr. Han pulled up a classified file that only 5 people in the government knew existed. 20 years ago, after first contact with hostile aliens in the Centauri system, we began a secret project. We placed automated weapons platforms around every known alien colony world, cloaked antimatter mines, kinetic bombardment satellites. Insurance against exactly this situation. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had been planning for this day for 2 decades. "How long to activate?" the president asked. "The systems are already online. All platforms report ready status. We need only the authorization codes." Admiral Choi stood and walked to the window overlooking Pearl Harbor. In the distance, he could see the memorial to the USS Arizona, destroyed in another sneak attack long ago. History had a way of repeating itself, but this time the response would be immediate. He turned back to the screen where alien ships were already moving toward Earth's outer defenses. "Send a message to the alien fleet," he said calmly. "Tell them they have 9 minutes to evacuate their colonies." 9 minutes? President Miller asked. "Admiral, that is not enough time for a proper evacuation." "It is exactly the same amount of time they gave Sergeant Kim to make peace with his death." "I think it is appropriate," the alien response came quickly. Mocking laughter filled the communication channels as Commander Kelthon dismissed the human threat as the desperate bluff of an inferior species. "Your pathetic world cannot threaten the mighty Velthak Empire. We will crush you like insects." Admiral Choi looked at his watch. 8 minutes and 30 seconds remained. "Dr. Han, begin the countdown. All stations prepare for Prometheus protocol activation." Across human space, the word went out through secret channels. Deep space monitoring stations received coded signals. Cloaked ships powered up weapon systems. Hidden bases activated targeting computers. Earth had been patient. Earth had been peaceful. But Earth also remembered every slight, cataloged every enemy, and prepared for every possibility. The aliens had killed a Green Beret and broadcast it to the galaxy. Now they would learn what humanity did to those who murdered their protectors. Commander Kelthon studied the tactical display on his flagship's bridge. The human fleet was pathetically small compared to his armada, a few dozen ships against his 500. The primitive creatures had no chance. "Communications officer, has the human government responded to our demands for surrender?" "Yes, Commander. They sent a single message saying we have 9 minutes to evacuate our colonies." Kelthon's mandibles clicked in what passed for Velthak laughter. 9 minutes? These creatures are either insane or incredibly stupid. Perhaps both. His tactical officer, Subcommander Velthak, gestured at the human ships maintaining their defensive positions. Should we destroy them immediately, Commander? No. Let them witness the futility of resistance. Begin bombardment of their outer colonies first. When they see their settlements burning, they will beg for mercy. What Kelthon did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since their first encounter with hostile aliens 2 decades earlier. The Prometheus Protocol was not a bluff or a desperate gambit. It was the culmination of 20 years of careful planning and patient preparation. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Nam Soo-jin received the activation codes aboard the stealth ship UES Incheon. The vessel was invisible to alien sensors, one of dozens scattered throughout known space. For 15 years she had waited for this moment, hoping it would never come. Communications confirm receipt of Prometheus authorization, she ordered quietly. Confirmed, Captain. All authentication codes verified. We are go for protocol activation. Captain Nam looked at her crew. They were all volunteers who had trained for this mission their entire careers. Each understood what they were about to do would change the galaxy forever. Weapons Officer Lee Kun-woo, prepare antimatter charges. Target grid 7 Alpha through 12 Delta. Antimatter charges armed and ready, Captain. Targets acquired. Similar scenes played out across human space. Commander Shin Hyun-woo's stealth bomber wing received their orders while hiding in a nebula near the Valthak industrial world of Chemtar. Lieutenant Bae Yeon-soo activated targeting systems aboard Deep Space Monitor Station 7. Her sensors locked onto 3 different Valthak colony worlds. The coordination was perfect. 20 years of planning had accounted for every detail, every possible scenario. Humanity's military doctrine had always emphasized overwhelming response to existential threats. The aliens were about to discover what that meant. In his laboratory on Luna, Dr. Han Jae-sung watched the countdown timer reach 5 minutes. Around him, banks of computers monitored weapon platforms scattered across 100 light-years of space. Each platform reported green status, ready to unleash destruction on a scale the galaxy had never seen. His assistant, Dr. Kim Hye-jin, watched the displays with mixed emotions. Doctor, are we doing the right thing? Millions of alien civilians will die. Dr. Han's face was carved from stone. They executed one of our soldiers on live broadcast to terrify us into submission. They expect us to kneel before their superior technology and numbers. They are about to learn that humans do not kneel. On the Veltak homeworld of Thektar, civilian Zelkoth prepared for his daily work shift at the Planetary Communication Center. He had heard rumors of the fleet's assault on the human homeworld, but such military matters did not concern him. The humans were a young species, barely capable of interstellar flight. They would surrender quickly. The mining world of Chemtar operated around the clock, its massive strip mining operations feeding the Valthak war machine. Worker Threxus operated a heavy excavator, unaware that hidden sensors had been tracking his world's defenses for over a decade. In orbit, cloaked human weapon platforms waited with the patience of machines. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi Sang-min stood in the Fleet Command Center surrounded by his senior staff. The main display showed Valthak forces moving to attack positions around Earth and Mars. They moved with confidence, clearly believing victory was assured. 2 minutes remaining, announced the tactical officer. Sir, Director Yoon Da-hee said quietly, the alien commander is opening communications. He wants to negotiate. Admiral Choi almost smiled. Now they want to talk. Put him through. Commander Kelthon's image appeared on the main screen. The alien's arrogance had been replaced by what looked like confusion. Human Admiral, our sensors are detecting energy signatures throughout our territory. What have you done? I warned you, Admiral Choi replied calmly. You had 9 minutes to evacuate your colonies. How much time is left, Commander? The countdown timer showed 90 seconds. For the first time since the invasion began, Kelthon showed something that might have been fear. You cannot threaten the Valthak Empire. We are the superior species. We have conquered dozens of worlds. And now you will lose them all. You broadcast the execution of one of our soldiers. You thought it would break our will. Instead, it revealed your true nature. We offered you peace. You chose war. 60 seconds remained. Across Valthak space, automated systems that had waited patiently for years suddenly came alive. Targeting computers acquired their designated coordinates. Weapon systems powered up. Antimatter charges armed themselves. Kinetic bombardment platforms adjusted their trajectories with mechanical precision. The humans had learned from every war in their history. Surprise attacks demanded overwhelming response. Total war required total commitment. The aliens had started this conflict by murdering a prisoner of war in front of the entire galaxy. Humanity would finish it in the next 60 seconds. 30 seconds, announced the tactical officer. Commander, Kelthon's communication cut off as his ships frantically tried to contact their colonies. But the human jamming systems were already active, cutting off Veltec communications across their empire. They would face their destruction in silence and isolation. 10 seconds came the announcement. Admiral Choi thought of Master Sergeant Kim Tae-wan, dying with honor in an alien torture chamber. The Green Beret had trusted his government and his species to avenge him. That trust would not be betrayed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute Prometheus Protocol. The order went out faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication systems to every hidden weapon platform in human space. After 20 years of preparation, of watching, of waiting, humanity's patient trap finally snapped shut. In the next 30 seconds, the balance of galactic power would shift forever. The aliens who had dismissed humans as primitive creatures were about to discover what happened when humanity stopped pretending to be civilized. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were the most dangerous species in known space. They were slow to anger, patient in planning, and absolutely ruthless when finally provoked. The Veltec had wanted to teach humanity about fear. Humanity was about to return the lesson with interest. On the Veltec homeworld of Thektar, Zelkoth arrived at his communication station exactly on time. The morning shift change at the Planetary Relay Center proceeded as it had for the past decade. Routine maintenance checks showed all systems operating normally. Long-range communications with the fleet reported successful. Engagement with human forces. Zelkoth settled into his workstation and began the daily routine of routing messages between different sectors of the Empire, supply requests from mining worlds, personnel transfers between military bases, scientific data from exploration vessels, the mundane business of running a galactic civilization. He had no way of knowing that 30,000 kilometers above his head, a human antimatter device waited in perfect silence. The weapon had been in position for 12 years, its cloaking field powered by a miniature fusion reactor. Motion sensors tracked the orbital patterns of Veltec defense satellites, while computer banks stored targeting data for every major city on the planet. Light years away, Lieutenant Bae Yeon-soo sat at her monitoring station aboard Deep Space Platform Omega-7. The installation was hidden in the shadow of a dead moon, its sensors locked onto 3 different worlds. Her screen showed real-time images of alien cities, industrial complexes, and military installations. Targeting computer reports all systems green, she announced to the empty command center. Bae had been alone on this station for 2 years, maintaining equipment and waiting for orders that might never come. Now those orders were burning through quantum communication channels at faster than light speed. Her console displayed a simple countdown. Timer, 000847 and falling. The mining world of Kemtar operated in 3 shifts around the clock. The night shift was just ending when Threxus finished his work at the excavation site. The massive strip mining operation had been working this continent for 50 years, providing raw materials for the Veltec war machine. Threxus looked forward to returning to his family pod and getting some rest. His mate Kelvara would have prepared the morning meal, and his offspring would be preparing for their educational cycle. Life on Kemtar was hard but predictable. High in orbit, Commander Shin Hyun-woo's bomber wing held position in the shadow of the planet's largest moon. 12 stealth ships waited in perfect formation, their crews running final systems checks. Each pilot had trained for this mission for over 5 years, practicing on computer simulations and knowing that one day it might become real. All units report ready status, his wing commander announced. Targeting packages confirmed. We are go for mission execution. The timer on Shin Hyun-woo's display showed 0.0623. Back on Earth, the Fleet Command Center had become a cathedral of controlled tension. Officers moved with quiet efficiency, their voices barely above whispers. Banks of displays showed the positions of human assets throughout known space. Each green dot represented years of planning and billions of credits invested in the ultimate insurance policy. Admiral Choi Sang-min stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, the best military minds in human space monitored the countdown. Director Yoon De-hee checked communication channels, ensuring that every platform received the activation signal. Dr. Han Jae-sung watched his life's work prepare to unfold. The Prometheus protocol had been his baby, developed in secret laboratories and tested in computer simulations. He had hoped it would remain forever theoretical. Now it would become the most decisive military action in human history. 4:15 and counting. On the Velthak flagship, Commander Kelthon paced his bridge with growing unease. His communications officers were reporting strange energy readings from across the Empire. Sensor stations on 12 different worlds had detected brief anomalies before their signals cut out entirely. Sub-Commander Velthak, what is the status of our colony communications? We are receiving routine reports from most sectors, Commander. However, 7 outposts have gone silent in the past few minutes. Equipment failures? Possibly, Commander. Or atmospheric interference. Kelthon's tactical instincts, honed by decades of conquest, were sending warning signals through his nervous system. Something was wrong, but he could not identify the threat. The human fleet remained in defensive positions. Their world showed no unusual activity, yet his sensors detected energy patterns that made no sense. O248 remaining. Captain Nam Soo-jin aboard the UES Incheon performed final weapons checks with mechanical precision. Her crew had practiced this routine hundreds of times, but never with live antimatter charges. The stealth ship hung in space like a waiting ghost, invisible to alien sensors. Weapons status report, she ordered. All antimatter charges armed and ready, Captain. Targeting solution confirmed. We are locked onto the primary government complex, the main spaceport, and the Planetary Defense Command Center. Communications? Quantum link with Fleet Command shows green. Standing by for final authorization. Captain Nam looked at the tactical display showing the peaceful alien world below. Cities full of civilians going about their daily lives. Families, workers, children. In 90 seconds, most of them would be dead. But she thought of Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won, dying with honor while his captors filmed it for broadcast. The aliens had chosen this path when they decided that humans were weak enough to intimidate. Across the galaxy, human weapon systems that had waited patiently for years suddenly hummed to life. Targeting computers locked onto predetermined coordinates. Antimatter charges reached critical mass. Kinetic bombardment platforms adjusted their trajectories for maximum impact. The precision was absolute. Every major Velthak world, every industrial center, every military installation had been mapped, studied, and targeted. Human intelligence services had been watching the alien empire for 2 decades, cataloging weaknesses and preparing for this moment. 45 on Thektar, Zelkoth noticed an unusual energy reading on his communication array. The readings showed massive power fluctuations in high orbit, but no Velthak ships were scheduled to be in those sectors. He began running diagnostic programs, assuming it was equipment malfunction. Threxus on Kemtar finished his journey home and was greeting his family when the ground began to shake. Mining operations often caused minor tremors, but this felt different, more intense. His offspring looked up at him with concern, their large eyes reflecting confusion. 15. Lieutenant Bae Yeon-su's hand hovered over the firing control. Her screens showed live images of 3 worlds, their cities glowing in the morning light of alien suns. Billions of lives about to be extinguished in the name of human justice. Final authorization received, she announced to the empty command center. Prometheus protocol is live. All platforms report ready status. Kyoto 5. Admiral Choi Sang-min closed his eyes and thought of every human colony that had been attacked, every ship that had been destroyed, every soldier who had died defending humanity's right to exist among the stars. The aliens had started this war with an act of barbarism broadcast to the entire galaxy. 3. Commander Kelthon suddenly understood what was happening. The energy readings, the lost communications, the timing. His eyes widened in realization as he reached for the emergency communication system. O2. All ships, evasive maneuvers. We are under attack by unknown. Euro, Burrow 01. The countdown reached 0. Across the galaxy, A civilization that had conquered dozens of worlds and subjugated countless species suddenly discovered what it meant to face humanity's wrath. The aliens had expected fear and surrender. They had received neither. Instead, they received a lesson in human military doctrine that would be remembered for millennia. When you threaten extinction, you face it in return. The age of Velthak dominance had lasted 3 centuries. It ended in the next 30 seconds. At exactly 9 minutes after the ultimatum, hell came to the Velthak Empire. On Thektar, Zelkoth was still running diagnostics when the sky above his city turned white. The antimatter device detonated 30 kilometers above the planetary capital, releasing energy equivalent to 100 nuclear weapons. The blast vaporized the government quarter, the military command center, and the orbital defense platforms in a single, brilliant flash. Zelkoth had 1 second to stare up at the expanding fireball before the shockwave reached the communication center. The building, along with everything else within 50 kilometers, simply ceased to exist. Similar scenes unfolded across the Velthak homeworld. 12 antimatter devices, hidden in orbit for over a decade, detonated simultaneously above every major population center. The precision was surgical and terrifying. Military installations vanished completely. Government buildings became craters. Spaceports melted into radioactive glass. But the residential districts remained largely intact. This was not genocide. This was a message written in atomic fire. On the mining world of Chemtar, Threxus was embracing his family when Commander Shin Hyun-woo's bombers began their attack run. The stealth ships dropped from orbit like falling stars. Their kinetic bombardment weapons locked onto the planet's massive mining complexes. The first tungsten rod struck the main excavation site at 20% of light speed. The impact released more energy than a tactical nuclear weapon, sending a column of superheated rock and metal 5 kilometers into the atmosphere. The mining operation that had strip-mined an entire continent vanished in seconds. Threxus felt the ground heave beneath his feet as subsequent impacts walked across the industrial zones. His family huddled together as their dwelling shook and the lights went out. Through the window, he could see fireballs rising from the mining complexes 20 kilometers away, but their residential area remained untouched. The human weapons struck with impossible accuracy, destroying industrial targets while leaving civilian areas intact. It was a demonstration of capability that chilled Threxus to his core. The humans could have killed everyone on the planet. They chose not to. Lieutenant Bae Yeon-soo watched her targeting display as antimatter charges detonated above 3 different worlds. Each explosion was precisely calculated to destroy military and government installations while minimizing civilian casualties. The message was clear. Humanity was not interested in genocide, but it would not tolerate aggression. Her communication system crackled as reports came in from across human space. Every hidden platform had fired on schedule. Every target had been eliminated. 20 years of careful planning had executed flawlessly in less than 1 minute. Deep Space Platform Omega-7 to Fleet Command, she reported calmly. All primary targets destroyed. Minimal civilian casualties detected. Mission accomplished. On the Velthak flagship, Commander Kelthon stared in horror at the tactical displays. Red warning symbols covered the holographic map of his empire. Colony after colony reported devastating attacks. His communication officers could barely keep up with the flood of emergency signals. Commander, we are receiving distress calls from 17 worlds. Sub-Commander Velthak announced, his voice shaking. Thektar reports the capital destroyed. Chemtar's mining operations have been eliminated. Velthara's orbital shipyards are gone. How is this possible? Kelthon demanded. Our sensors detected no enemy ships, no incoming weapons. The attacks came from weapons platforms already in position around our worlds. Cloaked devices that have been there for years, possibly decades. The full scope of human planning began to sink in. While the Velthak Empire had dismissed humans as primitive creatures barely worthy of notice, those same creatures had been methodically placing weapon systems around every major Velthak installation. The humans had been preparing for this war before most Velthak even knew humanity existed. Communications. Contact the human fleet. I want to speak with their admiral immediately. Admiral Choi Sang-min's face appeared on the main screen moments later. The human officer looked exactly like what he was, a career military man who had just executed the most decisive strike in galactic history. Commander Kelthon, the admiral said calmly, I believe you wanted to negotiate. You have destroyed our colonies, Kelthon snarled. This is a response to your unprovoked attack on New Seoul and the murder of Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won. You broadcast his execution to terrorize us into submission. Instead, you revealed your true nature. We are the superior species. We have ruled this galaxy for 3 centuries. And now you have learned that conquest has consequences. Your military installations are destroyed. Your government centers are eliminated. Your industrial capacity has been crippled. But notice, Commander, that your civilian populations remain largely intact. Kelthon studied the damage report streaming across his displays. The human was right. For all the destruction, casualty reports were surprisingly low. The aliens had targeted military and strategic assets with surgical precision, while deliberately avoiding population centers. Why? He asked quietly. Because we are not you. We do not murder prisoners for entertainment. We do not target civilians to spread terror. But we also do not allow aggression to go unpunished. Captain Oh Min-seok's strike team had been waiting in the asteroid field for this moment. As the main Velthak fleet reeled from news of their empire's destruction, his commandos struck at their communication hub. The boarding pods attached to the alien flagship's hull with magnetic clamps, cutting through armor plating with molecular saws. The assault was swift and brutal. Human Special Forces troops moved through the ship's corridors like lethal ghosts, their advanced armor protecting them from alien weapons while their own guns cut down defenders with ruthless efficiency. Within 20 minutes, Captain O's team had captured the ship's communication center and severed the Velthak fleet's ability to coordinate with their remaining forces. The alien commander found himself cut off from his own empire, watching helplessly as human forces demonstrated their superiority in every aspect of warfare. Captain Lee Dong-hwan led the final assault on the flagship's bridge. His Marines moved with mechanical precision, overwhelming the alien defenders through superior training and equipment. Commander Kelthon found himself staring down the barrel of a human assault rifle, his forearms raised in surrender. You have lost this war, Captain Lee announced calmly. Your empire is in ruins. Your fleets are scattered. Your colonies burn. Will you surrender, or do we need to demonstrate our capabilities further? Kelthon looked around his bridge at the human soldiers who had captured his flagship, without breaking a sweat. These were not the primitive creatures he had expected to face. They were professional warriors who had planned this operation down to the smallest detail. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Unconditional surrender of all Velthak forces, immediate withdrawal from human space, reparations for the colonies you attacked, and the trial of all officers involved in the murder of Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won. The alien commander's shoulders sagged in defeat. In the space of 30 minutes, his mighty empire had been reduced to scattered refugee fleets in burning worlds. The humans had done what no enemy had accomplished in 3 centuries of Velthak expansion. They had broken the Empire's power completely and decisively. I accept your terms, Kelthon said. Across the galaxy, Velthak ships began powering down their weapons and broadcasting surrender signals. The war that had begun with the execution of one human soldier was ending with the complete destruction of an interstellar empire. Humanity had kept its promise. 9 minutes after the ultimatum expired, every major Velthak colony was in ruins, but they had also kept their humanity, striking only military targets and sparing civilian populations that their enemies would have slaughtered without hesitation. The galaxy was learning a new truth about the species from Earth. Humans were slow to anger and preferred peaceful solutions. But when finally provoked to war, they waged it with a cold precision that made their enemies' brutality look like amateur theatrics. The age of Velthak dominance was over. The age of human supremacy had begun. 3 days after the 9-minute war ended, Captain Park Ji-ho stood in the rebuilt command center of New Seoul. The Velthak occupation had lasted only 6 hours, but in that time they had learned to fear the small human colony they had so easily conquered. The aliens had tried to use the power plant that Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won had rigged with explosives. When they activated the main reactor, the charges he had planted turned the facility into a crater visible from orbit. Even in defeat, the Green Beret had struck one final blow against his captors. Status report, Park ordered as he reviewed the reconstruction plans. 70% of the infrastructure has been restored, reported engineer Ko Sung-min. The new defensive systems are online. If anyone tries to attack us again, They will find a very different reception. Lee So-young entered the command center carrying her 5-year-old daughter, Yoon-ji. The little girl had asked many questions about why the scary aliens had come and why the nice soldier had to die. Lee tried to explain in words a child could understand, but some truths were too complex for young minds. "The memorial is ready for the dedication ceremony," Lee announced. "Representatives from Earth will arrive tomorrow to honor Sergeant Kim's sacrifice." Park nodded solemnly. The memorial would stand in the center of New Seoul's main square, where Kim Tae-won had made his last stand. The inscription would read simply, "Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won, he held the line." On Earth, Admiral Choi Sang-min reviewed the final reports from Operation Prometheus. The statistics were impressive in their precision. 47 Velthak worlds had been attacked simultaneously. Every military installation and government center had been destroyed. Industrial capacity across their empire had been reduced by 90%. Yet civilian casualties numbered fewer than 2 million across their entire civilization. For a species that had expected genocide, the restraint shown by human forces was incomprehensible. "The alien refugees are requesting permission to settle in the Outer Rim territories," Director Yoon Da-hee reported. "They claim they cannot return to their homeworlds due to radiation and infrastructure damage." Granted, Admiral Choi decided. But they settle as individual families, not as organized colonies. And they accept human law and human oversight. "Sir, some of our allies are questioning whether we were too merciful. The Centauri Federation thinks we should have eliminated the Velthak entirely." Admiral Choi looked out his window at Pearl Harbor, where construction crews were building a new monument to the victims of alien aggression. "We are not conquerors, Director. We are defenders. There is a difference." Dr. Han Jae-sung was deactivating the last of the Prometheus weapon platforms when Captain Nam Soo-jin's ship returned to Earth orbit. The elderly scientist had spent 20 years building humanity's ultimate insurance policy, and 20 minutes watching it reshape galactic politics forever. "Doctor, what happens to the platforms now?" Captain Nam asked during the debriefing. "Some will remain as monitoring stations," Dr. Han replied. "Others will be moved to new positions around potential threat systems. The galaxy has learned about human capabilities, but we must ensure the lesson is not forgotten." Captain Nam nodded. Her crew had performed flawlessly during the operation, but the weight of what they had accomplished would stay with them forever. They had helped destroy an interstellar empire in less than an hour. "Captain," Dr. Han continued, "you and your crew saved human civilization. Never forget that. The aliens counted on our supposed weakness and mercy. They learned that mercy and weakness are not the same thing. In the Outer Rim territories, the scattered remains of the Velthak fleet limped toward empty star systems, where they hoped to find refuge. Commander Kelthon, now a prisoner aboard a human transport ship, stared out at the stars and wondered how his mighty empire had fallen so quickly. The human guard, Sergeant Lim Jun-ho, noticed his contemplation. "Thinking about your mistakes, alien?" "I am thinking about your species," Kelthon replied quietly. "We studied your history before the invasion. Humans fight among themselves constantly. We expected you to be divided, easy to conquer. You studied our wars, but you missed the important part," Sergeant Lim said. "We fight each other, yes. But when an outside threat appears, we become something else entirely, something you should have feared. What will happen to my people? Those who accept human law and live peacefully will be allowed to rebuild their lives. Those who continue to believe in Velthak superiority will find themselves very alone in a galaxy that now knows what humans do to aggressive neighbors." The War Crimes Tribunal convened on Luna 3 weeks later. Commander Kelthon and 17 other Velthak officers faced charges for the murder of Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won and crimes against civilian populations. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy, showing alien species that humanity's justice was swift but fair. Judge Park Myung-soo read the charges with quiet dignity. The defendants stand accused of violating the laws of war by executing a prisoner and broadcasting that execution for propaganda purposes. "How do you plead?" Kelthon looked around the courtroom filled with representatives from dozens of species. All of them watched with careful attention, measuring human justice against their own standards. "Guilty," he said simply. "But I ask the court to understand that we acted according to Velthak law and tradition." "Your traditions," Judge Park replied, "included the conquest and enslavement of other species. This court rejects any claim that following orders or cultural practices excuses war crimes. The sentences were life imprisonment, but in facilities that met galactic standards for humane treatment. Even their former enemies would be housed with dignity, another demonstration of human values that impressed other civilizations. 6 months after the 9-Minute War, Ambassador Song Min-jung addressed the Galactic Council for the first time as humanity's representative. The chamber was packed with delegates from hundreds of worlds, all eager to hear from the species that had redefined interstellar warfare. Members of the Council, she began, humanity seeks the same thing we have always sought: peaceful coexistence among the stars. Recent events have shown that we are prepared to defend that peace, but we prefer to build it through cooperation and mutual respect. The Andromedan delegate, Kethvar, stood to speak. Ambassador Song, your species destroyed a 300-year-old empire in less than an hour. Many of us wonder if humanity intends to replace the Velthak as the galaxy's dominant power. We have no interest in dominion over other species, Ambassador Song replied calmly, but we will not tolerate aggression against human worlds or our allies. The Prometheus Protocol demonstrated our capabilities. We hope never to use such methods again. And if another species challenges human interests, then they will learn the same lesson the Velthak learned. Humanity is slow to anger, but when we are finally provoked, our response is immediate and total. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed this message. Several alien civilizations had been planning territorial expansions that would bring them into conflict with human colonies. Those plans were quietly abandoned in the following weeks. On New Seoul, the memorial to Master Sergeant Kim Tae-won was dedicated on the first anniversary of the alien attack. Park Ji-ho, now governor of the rebuilt colony, delivered the main address to a crowd that included Kim's family, who had traveled from Earth for the ceremony. Sergeant Kim died defending people he had never met. On a world far from his birth, Park said, but his sacrifice became the catalyst for humanity's greatest victory. He held the line not just against alien invaders, but against the idea that might makes right in our galaxy. Kim Tae-won's younger brother, Kim Jae-sung, spoke on behalf of the family. My brother always said that a soldier's job is to stand between evil and innocent people. He did that job to the very end. The fact that his death led to the liberation of an entire galaxy would not surprise him. He always believed that good people have to fight for what is right. In the months that followed, other alien civilizations began approaching humanity with trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The Zephyrian Republic, which had been neutral during the Velthak War, requested human assistance against pirates in their territory. The crystalline builders of Tau Ceti offered to construct human cities in exchange for protection. The galaxy had learned that humanity possessed not just devastating military capability, but also the wisdom to use it judiciously. They struck hard when threatened, but offered mercy to defeated enemies and protection to peaceful neighbors. Admiral Choi Sang-min, now approaching retirement, often visited the monument to the USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor. The memorial reminded him that surprise attacks had a way of awakening sleeping giants. The Velthak had learned this truth too late. Standing beside the memorial one evening, he was joined by Dr. Han Jae-sung, whose Prometheus Protocol had become the foundation of human defense strategy. Do you think we did the right thing, Doctor? Admiral Choi asked. We responded to aggression with overwhelming force while maintaining our humanity, Dr. Han replied. We could have exterminated their entire species. Instead, we destroyed their ability to make war while sparing their civilians. I believe history will judge us well. And the future? The galaxy now knows that humans are not to be trifled with. But they